So Anitian is a 23-year-old security intelligence firm. We do anything you can think of in the professional services for information security. So pen testing, compliance audit, we're a PCI auditor, all that sort of good fun stuff. A few years ago, we actually started working with AWS a lot, got to learn their platform really, really well, and we identified an opportunity for managed security in the cloud. And using the cloud, you can do some things in security and automation that you simply can't do in an on-prem relationship. And there was really an opportunity, an inflection point in the industry to build a managed security practice exclusively based around the cloud. There really isn't any other managed security platform that's exclusively built for the cloud, at least not yet. So we saw that as an opportunity to rush into that space. So I want to talk a little bit about what that is and how we've been able to do that, and how that platform and the type accredited architectures, which you might have heard of from AWS, how they're all part of really the same continuum. So our security platform, as well as the type accredited architectures that we're doing, they're all part of the same effort to build highly automated, highly orchestrated environments exclusively in the cloud to be able to do things at the speed and scale of the cloud. So I start that conversation with sort of the basis of this, which is I believe that, based on our many years of doing security, that technology alone is just simply no longer enough. You buy all the great firewalls, whatever, it just isn't enough. And my proof of that is these are just 6. And believe me, this could be 6,000 logos. I picked 6 that you recognize. These are 6 breaches that occurred in just the last couple of years. And I mean, these 6 right here account for well over 1 billion records that were stolen. Now, I'm not here to explain why each one of them had a problem, but the thing about this is each one of these companies had invested in all the cool technologies. They all had next-gen firewalls, they all had WAFs, they all had FireEyes and Mandiants and whatever running on all their hosts. So the fact that they had all that technology, it still didn't stop a breach. So the technology just isn't working. And it's not entirely the technology's fault. The problem really stems from a more philosophical problem that's happened in our industry. And it begins with this. We've got people and technology in the wrong places. And we've done this to ourselves. We are now, as an industry, hiring people, sitting them in chairs or stools, and saying to them, you can't miss anything, you can't screw anything up, and you need to know everything about our environment at every given moment. And if you screw anything up, we're going to fire your flippin' ass and humiliate you in the public. That is an absolutely ludicrous expectation to put on anyone, particularly anybody in information security. Human beings simply do not have that capacity at all. Nobody does. So it's a completely unrealistic standard. And we see this repeated over and over and over again at organizations. These CIOs or CISOs come in, they're given this huge responsibility with zero authority to do anything about it.
Or budget.
Huh?
Or budget.
Or budget, yeah. We're making people do the work of machines. We're trying to turn people into robots, and it doesn't work. And that's where these breaches start. But the flip side of this is we're trying to make the machines be human. I don't know how many CIOs or CISOs I've sat down with, and I've said to them, so tell me about your security program. And they'll start with, oh, well, we have Palo Altos at the perimeter, we run McAfee on the end. I'm like, well, that's not a security program. That's a bunch of tech you bought. And they'll look at me like, well, what do you mean? I don't know, what are you talking about? The problem is we're putting way too much faith in this technology, and we're expecting it to know everything and figure everything out for us. This has kind of been this push on artificial intelligence. This notion that we can slap a next-gen firewall in our environment and it should just figure everything out and know everything. And that is a ludicrous expectation to put on a piece of technology. It's never going to know your company. It's never going to understand the dynamics of your marketplace or the changing employees and the changing threat landscape. At best, what it can do is just work at speed and scale. It can't think. And we're trying to interconnect all this with process. We're building ludicrous practices and processes, hoping that'll kind of glue it all together. Well, it just isn't working. And the reason is that we've simply got people and tech in the wrong places. We got to get the people, the tech, and the process doing the right things. And it starts with the people. People are good at creative things. They're good at asking big questions. Why? Why is that happening? What does this mean to my company? That's important to us. I care about that database. I could give a rip about that database. That's the important part. Okay? Now the problem with people is, of course, they're inconsistent, unreliable, and they're often drunk, particularly Guilfoyle here. Okay? Silicon Valley just started, so I have my Guilfoyle up here, okay? Right? Now technology, right, make it do all the crap work. It's consistent, it's reliable, it's fast, it's the discipline. And discipline is an incredibly important part of any security program. Without discipline, it can never be secure. I don't know about you, I can't walk by that thing, that counter downstairs, without eating one of those cheese sticks. I have absolutely no discipline as a human, which is pretty obvious if you look at my lovely physique. Okay, we humans are not particularly well disciplined. Technology is. It works or it doesn't. It's inherently disciplined. Code is inherently disciplined. But it's uncreative and it's easily tricked. You can get around these things. So process has to unite all that together. The process has to be agile. It has to be that DevOps approach. Because process is what's going to create the trust to make this all work. Okay, that's what we built at Sherlock. That's our whole thing that we built. We have realized that when you get the people and the process back in the right places, you have a winning combination. And it starts with using the cloud and using it at scale, and using automation, and using orchestration to build things quickly, scale them quickly, and change them quickly. And when you do that, and you make the machines do all that searching and filtering and looking, that then frees the human beings up to do something else. It allows us to then step back and go, what's going on here? What's the big story happening here? Why did this server suddenly decide to talk to China at 4 in the morning? What the hell's going on there? There's something not quite right there. I should look into that. And when you do that, it's fun. Your job's fun again. It isn't misery of having to watch that horrible console tick by with data all day. So once you get everybody kind of in the right place, everything starts to work. And that's what our Sherlock platform is all about. Now that platform we're also using to build these type-accredited architectures. And what that is the same sort of automation. We can push a button, and in a moment's notice, we can deploy a whole architecture to meet PCI compliance, ISO compliance, and a bunch of other letters in compliance. But PCI is the big one we're working on right now. And this type-accredited architecture, we already have a version available in the marketplace right now. You can go on the marketplace, you can buy a type-accredited PCI architecture, you deploy it, boom, you've got a whole architecture that meets the PCI hardening and organizational requirements right after you run it. We're working on the next version of that right now, which is not only going to build the architecture for you, but it's also going to put all the requisite security controls, endpoint, file integrity monitoring, intrusion detection. It's going to put those in using some of the third parties, some of the people you see right down here. So we got Trend Micro and Cloud Passage and Puppet and Splunk are all participating, and Allgrass are all participating in that. And so we're going to build this entire environment. So all you have to do is take your code, put it in the environment, and at that point, as long as you followed all the rules, you're PCI compliant. That environment will be compliant. All the way to the point where we can walk in, Anitian, and say, yep, it's compliant. And here's your report on compliance, or here's your SAT. Yeah.
Cloud platform agnostic, and one of this may be saying that. That means you can work with Azure, you can work with Google, you can work with Oracle Cloud.
Oh, that's a tricky question. So the type-accredited architectures, no, they're AWS specific, and there's a reason for that. And AWS didn't pay me to say this. Let's be clear about that. AWS is the only platform where we can do automation and orchestration at scale and at the complexity and depth we need to. Azure, Google Cloud, all those perfectly good platforms, but they suck. Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. No, they just don't have the. They're fine. They don't have the automation capabilities yet. Our managed security platform can reach into those. So as far as we're concerned from a managed security platform, we don't care where you run. We're going to run the core elements in AWS, and then we'll just take data from wherever it is, on-prem, Azure, Google Cloud, your grandmother's basement, whatever. I mean, we'll take it. I don't know about Granny's basement. That's so, okay, how does all this work? All right, so it starts with, we see this big uptick in demand of companies that are basically saying, look, I gotta be able to deal with this problem, this breach problem, okay? My clients, particularly if you're looking at SaaS type companies, they're saying, look, our clients are demanding a level of compliance and security. But here's the real crux, and the one that we hear over and over and over again. I simply can't hire enough people. And that is incredibly true. And the problem is even if you do hire them, they'll leave because they can, all right? And you can hire somebody, and you can have the greatest culture in the world. This is no knock against your company. You can have a culture where you give out, free pop and back rubs all night and day, but the reality is there's always another company around the corner who's going to give them a bigger paycheck. And the fact is, that's just life. That isn't a failure. It's just the way it is. So even if you hire a bunch of cybersecurity people, you're probably going to lose them in a year or two, which means you're looking at this turnover problem. And we need it fast. So how the heck do you do all this? How do you get the controls in place? How do you get the monitoring? How do you get the threat hunting? How do you get all this in place? How do you do it fast? How do you do it quick? And how do you avoid that sort of turnover problem? Well, that starts with code. So our strategy is we assemble a code base for our client. So we have a base of code that we've built that's very modular, where we can kind of pick and choose the components we need. And we say, okay, you need a Splunk, you need a Trend Micro, you need a this, you've got that, this is the way you're doing it. So we assemble this code base. And the code base is it auto configures, it auto sets up, it kind of does everything. So there isn't a person going click, 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 click. We're not clicking around for hours and hours and hours. The code does all this. So it's a completely DevOps model, which means DevOps organizations, we just completely mesh with them. And in many cases, we're writing a code base that can actually mesh right into our client's code. It's their configuration. In fact, a lot of our customers, that's exactly what we do. We just take our code, we put it into their repository, they run it and then execute it, and then that puts all the requisite controls into the environment. So once we build that, then we simply deploy it. We run the code in the environment, which this is an environment, I should note, that you can own. We don't have to own it. You can if you want us to. We don't have to. You can own it. We just run the code in your environment. This auto deploys all the requisite components, whatever components you need. You want a SIM, you want an endpoint, whatever technology, whatever pieces you need. Builds the database, does all this in like an hour. So the whole thing is up and running within an hour. The next step is then to connect it with our SOC. So we have a 24/7 SOC. We have a team based in the United States. Here's an interesting little tidbit. When you build a next generation SOC where people get to do fun work, you don't have to go to foreign countries to get people. People actually want to do that work. It's fun. It's exciting because it's not drudgery and misery. Well, not every day. Ian can attest. Some days are probably a little more boring than others, but it's fun work. It's more fun work, okay? So we connect that up to our SOC, which once the threat hunting starts, which is completely automated, I should note, baked completely into the SIM, the SOC starts monitoring that, keeping an eye on it. When they see something that's suspicious, they jump into it. The type of accredited architectures, they work essentially the same way. The only difference is that we wouldn't necessarily connect that to our SOC. Unless you wanted to pay for that, which that's fine, you can do that. We will take your money. And then the last step is really to just deliver the intelligence. So one of the other key points of our platform, we believe the big problem, you go out on that expo floor, what are you going to see? You're going to see a bunch of big monitors like this, with a bunch of dashboards, with blinking, beeping, pew-pew charts. I forget who had the globe with the pew-pews going, woo-woo-woo-woo, right? Looks cool, right? You're like, hey, look at that thing. You get it on your wall and your network. Look at that. Everybody stands around. And then invariably some smart ass like me walks in and says, does anybody know what any of that means? No, I have no idea what that's doing. It's blinking and beeping, which means we must be secure. Most of those dashboards are completely useless. Because they're written to be eye candy. They're written to get you to buy the product. They're not written to be actual security. Because real security is kind of boring, it's kind of simple, and kind of straightforward. Real security is, here's 5 problems you need to deal with right now. Here's the answer. Let's go to it. That's security. That's when it actually works. When we're saying, here's 5 problems, our solution to that is our top 5. We don't give you 5 million alerts, because the minute we gave you 5 million alerts, you just go, ah! And you just fall over and say, I can't deal with this. Because of course you would. Who wouldn't? We give you 5 because we can deal with 5 at a time. Psychologically, that's all any human being can deal with at any given moment. It's simple. Maybe it isn't the greatest eye candy, but the fact is that it gets the job done. And that's what we're all about. So our platform consists of cloud security operations, totally virtualized. Nothing. When we build a SOC, it's your SOC. You're not in a SOC with 27,000 other customers. I don't think there is a SOC that has 27,000. Even 2,700, it's your SOC. It belongs entirely to you. It's your data. It's in your cloud if necessary. We run it. We run all the gear for you. We can monitor and manage anything. You got a next-gen firewall? Great, we'll run it. If you got an IDS, IPS? Great, we'll run it. SIM. SIM is a core part of our threat hunting. You got to have a SIM to really do any of the things we want to do. We support 2 SIMs. Splunk, great SIM. We also have our own. It's elastic-based. All of our threat hunting is baked right into the SIM. You don't need to get a separate threat intel feed or anything else. It's all just right in there. It's baked right in, and it's completely automated. So whenever there's new things, we just push it automatically directly into the SIM. We then offer a managed detection and response capability on top of that. So if there's a problem, our team is on top of it. They'll respond real time. 4 in the morning, 4 in the afternoon, we don't care. We're on top of it. We got a team working on it. And then we also offer breach intelligence and other services along with that. So what does this actually look like when we do it? Because at this point it seems like, okay, you're probably like, all right, it's fascinating. What does it look like? One of the unique differentiators that we learn in doing any kind of services like this is that no 2 clients are alike. No matter how hard we try to build a platform to fit every client, it's impossible. And I don't care if you're the biggest MSSP in the country or the smallest MSSP in the country, we all suffer from the exact same problem. No 2 companies are alike. Everybody is unique in their own way, and how do you deal with that? The way to deal with that is what we've been telling people to do forever, which is do a risk assessment. Risk assessments are the genesis for any security program. When I sit down with a CISO, what I want to hear is, well, we conduct an annual risk assessment, we have a risk register, and we derive every project from that risk register. Here are the top 5, our top 5 threats we're dealing with right now are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here are the remediation strategies we're doing. We have these controls. That's a security program, okay? Our program is based right around that too. So the first thing we do is we come out, we do a risk assessment. It's included, you get it. Free. Well, it's not free. You're paying for it, kind of, but you get the idea. It's included in the service. Once we have that, and once we have your code base built, we can deploy in an hour. Bing, everything's up and running. We tune everything after that based on the risk assessment. You're getting your first few reports in a few weeks. What is your commitment on this? We got it. We're taking care of it. All you got to do is pay attention to those reports, and we'll work with you on the remediation. This is what automation and orchestration in the cloud can do. We can do this in days. We can offer risk assessments because now, once we've got the tech doing all that hard work, we can do it at the speed and scale of the cloud. And the other benefit of this program is we can scale to anything. 10 servers, 10,000 servers, global network, it doesn't matter, because once you get the code, once you've built that code base, whether it's 1 server or 10,000 servers, it's the same code base. More importantly, you can rebuild that anytime you want, anywhere you want. That's the benefit of code. It's reusable again and again and again and again. And it's rapidly reusable. And whenever we need to tweak or tune or optimize anything, we make a change to the code, we push it through your change control, and then it's issued automatically. There's no human being sitting there going clickety click click clickety click 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 who at some point is going to go clickety click click like, screw these guys, I don't care, and get bored or tired or lose track of things or whatever, might be drunk. So that's the benefit of doing this. We are building the future SOC. The SOC of the future based entirely around the cloud, a cloud-native future security operations center. These type accredited architectures are just part of that. It's made for a DevOps environment. It's made for working with a modern way of doing these things. We can't keep putting gear into racks. That doesn't work anymore. That world is over. And if you spend a few minutes on the expo floor this week, you will notice there is a sick desperation among the hardware vendors because it's over. The realm, the world, the era of hardware is over. There's a reason everybody's moving into the cloud because it's just better. You can do more. Security is better in the cloud. All right, that's it. Any questions, thoughts, comments? How'd I do on time? Wow, that was fast. Huh?
So you did great.
I did great that time. Does anybody have any thoughts on that?
Do you do all the deployment and stuff, or do you have partners that work with you? Deployment and also any public sector, are you in the public sector space?
We can work in the public sector space. There's no reason we can't. We do the deployments ourselves. So remember, it's all code. There's no piece of hardware we have to come out and install. Now, if you have an on-prem environment, we can put the like heavy forwarders and that kind of to grab the data and bring it up into our environment. But we prefer not to use any hardware there. I mean, if you really, really, really want a piece of hardware and do this, fine. Set up a piece of hardware. We'll put our software on it to forward the data up to us. But our feeling is let's keep this. We're going to centralize and do everything in the cloud. So we do all the deployment. It's all completely automated too. So that's why many of the partners we're working with. The reason we're working with them is because they have been forward leaders in cloud automation. I'll pull out Trend Micro as a good example of this. Trend Micro saw this as the cloud as an opportunity 5-6 years ago. They started deploying their products in AWS. They were in the marketplace before anybody. Symantec and McAfee, they woke up like last week and suddenly went, oh, hey, there's this thing called the cloud. We better do something about that. And I mean, they're no offense to them as companies. They're perfectly good companies, but they're just behind the times. They missed the boat on cloud, and now they're trying to take all this legacy technology and kind of port it into the cloud, and it just isn't working. Part of the reason it's not working is because the cloud, AWS, Google, what have you, is architected fundamentally different. There's things you can do in the cloud that you simply cannot do on-prem, but the reverse of that is true as well. The abstraction of the network is probably one of the big issues that's driving this. You don't really have a network in the same concept as you do on-prem. That's good though, because now you can automate things. You don't need to have a dude go to a box and plug in, and then route it back here, and I say dude because it's always some network admin who's long frizzy hair and been doing it way too long. It's kind of a burnout. Like anything, it's a subscription. So that's the way the world is moving. So another big innovation we came up with at Anitian was the realization that nobody wants to buy tech anymore or product. Product is gone. Office 365, Netflix, Salesforce, these are all part of this subscription economy. This is really the way to do it, and it's partially, there's operational benefits to that. You have a monthly bill, etc. But there's a bigger thing at stake in the subscription. When you buy a subscription, you're not buying a product per se. You're buying a relationship, and to us, that's more important. I want to have a relationship with you, not necessarily you personally, but you as a company. Although we can do that too. We want to have a relationship with our clients. We want to get to know you. We want to build that relationship. That relationship has value. That's where we put the price. The price is on our relationship. The service we offer, the products, the solution, that comes along for the ride. That's just embedded in it. So when we have a new version of our platform, you just get it. We're not going to upcharge you. We're not going to go, oh, there's a new license key you got to buy in order to do your job. So it's a subscription. You pay monthly, and in that subscription, you can kind of have anything you want. Within the realm of things we actually offer. We want like a pizza. We don't do that. But within that subscription, we can do the managed security, but we can also bundle in things like penetration tests and compliance audit work as part of our professional services portion of our business.
And it is a dedicated SOC.
I'm sorry?
You get a dedicated SOC service.
It's not dedicated in the sense that dedicated is a tricky word here. So it's dedicated in the sense that each one of our customers has their own SOC. We don't have one giant SOC that you come to. Rather, we build a SOC just for you in the cloud. We can do that through automation, right? Imagine that you had to build a new SOC for each customer. Well, if you had to do that in the old traditional way, you would end up with, buildings filled with technology, and it would cost an absolute fortune. Because if every customer had to have their own set of rack servers, or even their own VM cluster, the cost would be through the roof. I know this because there's a couple of companies that tried to do that, and it didn't work. So our strategy is that we build this virtual SOC for you in AWS. We connect it to whatever you have, on-prem, wherever, and then that's yours. It essentially belongs to you. We provide the services and the people and the managed detection and response in that environment. One of the benefits of doing it that way is at the end of our relationship, if you decide to terminate that relationship, which would be really sad, and I really wish you wouldn't do it, nobody's done it yet, it's yours. There you go. It's your data. Take it. We're done here. Sorry to see you go. But we understand that at some point that might be the way your company needs to go. Right now, if you're working with a traditional managed security provider and you sever that relationship, that's it. Your data's gone. Have a nice life. Good luck trying to because they want to get those tendrils into you and hold you forever. We want to hold you forever too. We're just going to do it in a nicer way. So it's dedicated in the sense that it's dedicated to you and your company, not dedicated to everybody as one. Did that answer the question? Any other questions or thoughts on this? One of the things that's unique about the cloud and important to understand is that automation and orchestration, particularly at AWS, it's baked right into the platform. You don't need to buy a separate automation platform. The Phantom and Swimlane, those are all great automation platforms, and they're great for on-prem. But once you get everything up into the cloud, you don't need those platforms because the cloud is an automation platform. That is what it is, and that's what AWS is really leading on across the board. That's why we're in AWS. That's why AWS is here. They offer the capabilities that the Azures and Googles just don't. They will someday. All right. Any other thoughts? We done? Go get some food. Thanks, everybody.